Hi, it's Kamon Reynolds, and everyone's been asking, how do we extract our honey? So finally getting around to it, got a little bit of honey left, and this machine is awesome. Fixing to show you all of that. If you're one of our honey customers, thanks for buying our honey, and here you can see how we get the honey out of the combs. This process of uncapping combs and then reusing combs saves the bees so much work, and also allows our bees to be able to save a lot of honey for themselves. Alright, let's get this thing fired up. And you can just see how the blades that are heated are just cutting right through that wax. Now we have a steam generator over there, I'll show you in just a minute. And it heats those blades up so the wax doesn't build up on the blades. How'd that get there? Now, all you've got to do is just, you keep feeding it. You got to wash your hands, of course. You got to wait till those bars go down right there. Have it sit down on it. I want to wait till the next one. And then just let it ride on down. So, right here, that was a whole box. We can do a box in a minute, no problem with this machine. And there's a little bit more to it. In the future, I'm going to try to have a video with a little more details about this Kamon Silver Queen. But it's that simple. But we've got a lot more to show you. This Kamon is an amazing machine, but there's a lot of other components that make it work the way that it does. One is the steam generator. I don't know if you're able to hear that little hiss, but this little device down here is generating a lot of steam. Right now the water level is right to here. We've got our little thermostat and heater, basically, immersion heater, and it runs out this red line right here is vapor and goes all the way into the blades. You can see some of them on this side over here, and it goes through the blades on this side and then hits the blade on the other side. And then I have underneath right here a bucket where it exits out. You actually can reline it back into the steam generator, but it gets a little bit more complicated, and ultimately I just like running it out like this right here. And let me tell you, it keeps those blades hot, which is very important. Whew, that line was pretty high. The thing of it is, those blades are pretty sharp, but wax is extremely sticky and gums up the blades very quickly. And so having that really hot steam running through that metal allows the wax just to come right off of those blades, so obviously it stays sharp and can go to the next comb. Pretty awesome. Pretty basic concept, but still works. Alright. And there's a relief on that too, just in case we don't blow ourselves up with a giant steam grenade. Alright, so over here we can come up here and get any of this debris off the top of the frames, just wax. Check down in there, look at all that nice beeswax. Mom always said, mind your own beeswax. Yeah, as a kid, I heard that quite often. Maybe it was something to do with the 90s, but I remember in school several times you'd say something to one of the boys, mind your own beeswax. Of course, when you're a kid, you're just like, somebody's got a lot of beeswax, and obviously they're minding it. I don't know exactly how that came about, but whenever anyone asks me about how I do my beeswax, I usually just tell them to mind their own. It's a lot of fun. We'll get around to how we mind ours later. Anyway, so Laurel is usually over here doing this while I'm feeding the uncapper. Sometimes we'll switch it up, but this is a really nicely uncapped frame. There's a little bit of damage here. You can see the cells. I mean, just full of delicious honey. Just absolutely delicious. Occasionally, though, some of them get missed, and we have this what's called a scratcher or an uncapping fork, And any area that's missed, you can just take that and scratch it out really quick so that when it goes into the extractor, it'll be ready. But yeah, we just got all this wonderful beeswax that's on top of a stainless steel screen. You can't hardly see it because there's so much wax on it. Let Laurel get over here. And then if you come over here, on the other end, you can see where there's not hardly any wax down in there, and it's just beautiful light honey. And we'll show you how we get it out of here in just a second. Now that we have the frames uncapped, and we've ensured that there's not any cells that are still capped at all and they've been scratched or whatever, we just load up the extractor. And if we don't get to them immediately, they can just sit in here and drain, and we can still get that honey out here in just a second. This is a Dadant 20 frame extractor, first extractor that I ever purchased. It was a good extractor, definitely a good sideline extractor. Now one thing I like to do is, it's kind of like the Wheel of Fortune. You know, you like to buy a vowel, yes, E and another E please, and throw a B in there. Anyways, before I say anything else stupid, you just hit the switch here, but before I do that, I usually go ahead and start the spin, because that's, when you blow a fuse, it's typically right when it first starts, that initial burst of energy against all that weight, especially on deep frames. And I like to start it out at about 30 or 40 depending. Ooh, look at all that honey hitting the walls. Man, it smells delicious too. But that just helps keep it from blowing a fuse when you start it like that. I don't know if you can see it, but it is just raining honey all down in there. You know, I've been doing this, wow, for more than half my life. That sounds weird. And it never gets old. Alright, it's hit peak speed for what I had it set at. Now I'm going to have it up to 50%. And you know what? We haven't had a blowout. Well, I haven't had a blowout on me so far. And that's when the combs just completely fly out of the frames. And that's why if you're using wax foundation, you need to have, oh my goodness, it's throwing honey out at me. I'm going to shut this real quick. You need to have either plastic foundation, which gives it a really strong foundation. You don't have to worry about the comb slinging out of the frames. Or if you have wax foundation, you need to make sure that you wire it. And I'm going to be showing you how to do that later this year. Yeah, there's little bits of honey on the lens where it's just the tiniest micro little laces of honey on there. It looks like a sticky spider web. I don't know if you can see it on camera. But yeah, I've got up to 50%. Most I think I ever run this thing, it's about 60 once it gets close to being empty. It's really important to try to balance your load. So if you have like 20 frames in this one, let's say you have 4 that are only halfway full, then you try to have like one here, one here, one here, one here, and just you try to get it as balanced as possible. It really makes a big difference on any issues like that. You can bolt these things into the floor. This one has a stand, we don't bother. It's still slinging out a good bit of honey right there. Man, that smells good. Yeah, it's still raining honey. That's awesome. Woo. Getting honey thrown all over my face. My skin's gonna look radiant next video. On the other side of the extractor, we have what's called a clarifier. We also have the pipes that are coming out of the uncapping tank and the extractor that are able to feed their honey into the clarifier. Now this is basically just a system that separates your wax out and just clarifies your honeys. As you can tell, the first stage has a lot more wax in it than the second stage. And honestly, had we not been running so much honey through it earlier, there wouldn't be as much in the third stage. And just little by little you take out wax, and usually, unless you're just running a phenomenal amount of honey through here, and a lot depends on your uncapping system, you only have to clean this out about once a day. And then you can take that and stick it in your uncapper and let it drain and get that honey back out of it and get the wax as well. Now what I mean by uncapping system, if you're using a system that's more of a chain uncapper, simply Honey Farms uncapper, just scratching it, something that's generating a lot of small pieces of wax, you're going to get a whole lot more wax in your clarifier, and you're going to have to treat it differently. When you're using a cold knife, just a regular knife, or using a hot uncapping knife, or you're using a Kamon system like this, it's basically just cutting off sheets of wax and very little wax in the grand scheme of things. You all saw how much was in that uncapper. 95 or more % of it is still in the uncapper. We're probably eliminating at least 4% more of it in the stages of clarifying it here, and then we'll show you the next stage here in a second. But basically, you can just open this up and there it goes, and oh, bee fell in. Get on out of there. I'll have to save that one later. Right now it's like food everywhere. But yeah, it just pours right on out of here. You can also have another extractor on this side feeding in. And oh, this is a it's double walled. So it's got your inner wall for the honey, and then it's got water all along. You can pour it in right here, and it's got a heating element just like the steam generator had. And I've got it set right now at 100 degrees. You don't want to get it too hot. Now if you're running honey through it really fast and you just go, 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 a lot of beekeepers will run it around 125, and while that is damaging to honey if honey actually reaches that temperature, if you're running it through there quickly, it's probably not even getting to 100 degrees because this thing automatically kicks on. As you can see, all of this equipment right here, my hands are all just sticky. You cannot work honey and not get sticky. It's impossible. If someone can figure that out, they'll be millionaires. And it just tracks everywhere. Jimmy will come down here and he'll get a spot on his finger and it'll be all over the doorknobs in every room of the house. But what we have right here, and I don't have it set up because we're not doing a whole lot tonight for the video, but basically it has, well, let's see if I can get this pulled up. Yeah, you can see it right there. And as the honey pushes that ball up, that float, it trips this switch right here and will kick the pump on automatically if we have it rigged. And so we don't have to worry about this. You just have it mounted to your barrel or your tank or whatever. That system kicks on and it pumps the honey out down to probably about 2 or so inches off the floor. And of course you just keep it running and running. You can just have both of these open and just keep them running into here. As long as you have a place for it to go, you're good. Just don't let your barrel fill all the way up and let it keep pumping into it. That could be bad. Now, thankfully I haven't done that one yet. That might be next year's video. Liquid gold. Now this is the last stage of filtration. Anything that's missed by the clarifier will be caught by this right here. We're going to have a better system for next year, but this was the cheapest, quickest option that we've come across, and it won't allow the barrels to fill all the way up. So I've got a way of just pulling out of one barrel and just filling up the other ones if I want to top them all off. But honestly, when you're having to wheel these things around down in here, it's nice not having them all the way full. Look at how light that honey is up in here though. That's just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, that's just really nice looking light honey. It's awesome. But yeah, when you have this thing mounted and you have the thing set to go automatic, Laurel and I can just fool with loading and emptying the extractor, loading the Silver Queen uncapper, scratching and all that kind of stuff. Between the two of us, we can do quite a bit of honey pretty quickly. Those kids, once they get a little bit older, maybe they can help a little bit. So, alright, it automatically kicked off. It got as far along as it wanted to. Again, usually this is mounted. We just weren't doing a whole lot of supers for the video. Alright. And you can just see this honey pump down here. This is an old Kelly's honey pump. I've had some people say that it's a 70s model. I don't know. It was made very well. It weighs a ton, just like a lot of old American-made equipment. And it's pretty simple. You just got your gear pump down here, of course your motor, couple fittings, belt, platform, pretty basic. Now, when this system is, it's mounted and free flowing, you just keep this open right here. But it never is allowed to get that full, so it's never coming out that hard. It's coming out as fast as the honey's slinging it out. Right now it's above the valve a little bit, and of course we have this over here as well, just coming out of the uncapping tank. And so you just leave that open right there, and you can see how clean that is coming out from underneath. That's the way that it's supposed to work, obviously, is it dams up all that wax, and it's supposed to get pretty clean. We got it pretty messy all the way through because we were just going too fast and we allowed too much buildup in the extractor, and we just let it flood on out. And when you have that much pressure coming out, when it's coming out like this, it's no problem really. You just get really tiny stuff, but when you're literally having 1.5 inches of honey falling down and hitting that, it really pushes that wax down and it can get underneath there and float on up. But anyways, that's the system right there. I'm pretty happy with it. It needs a little bit of fine tuning. Next year we may very well, which his plan was to do it this year, we just didn't have the time. It's hard to get all the little things done. We'll try to show you more about our bottling system later, but we're hoping to have our other extractor over here, and so we can have our 20 frame over here and a 30 frame, 33 frame going over here. So anyways, thanks for watching our videos, and we'll see you next time.